The train station was bustling with life. People rushing to their platforms, families hugging goodbye, and the distant hum of announcements echoing through the high-ceilinged terminal. Lily clutched her train ticket tightly, weaving her way through the crowd with determined steps. She had spent the last few days visiting her family, and while the trip home was always comforting, she was eager to return to the city and get back to her routine. As she reached the baggage carousel, her eyes scanned the endless sea of suitcases rolling toward her. Spotting her familiar black hardshell suitcase, she grabbed it quickly, not wanting to linger in the chaotic crowd. With a relieved sigh, she hoisted it onto the floor, adjusting the strap of her tote bag on her shoulder. Finally, she muttered to herself and pulled the suitcase behind her, heading toward the exit on the other side of the station. Before we continue with today's story, if you're enjoying what you've heard so far, please hit that subscribe button. Every new subscriber helps me keep sharing these inspiring tales that touch your day. Thank you for your support. James adjusted his sunglasses and glanced at his watch patiently. He had just finished a long, tedious business trip and was looking forward to some quiet time at his hotel. Though he was accustomed to first-class flights and luxury accommodations, this time he had chosen to travel by train in an attempt to experience normal life. Keeping a low profile was important to him, and he found solace in the anonymity of crowded spaces. He reached the baggage area and spotted what he assumed to be his suitcase, identical to dozens of others, and grabbed it with ease before stepping outside to his waiting car. It wasn't until James reached his hotel room and unzipped the suitcase that he realized something was wrong. Instead of neatly pressed suits and expensive cologne, he was met with neatly folded jeans, a soft-looking sweater, and a well-worn paperback novel titled Finding Yourself. He frowned, rummaging through the bag further, pulling out a small notebook filled with handwritten notes and a picture of a smiling young woman standing next to an elderly couple. James ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. "Great," he muttered. "This is definitely not mine." Flipping through the notebook, he found a name scribbled inside the front cover: Lily Carter. His eyes fell on a sticky note tucked into the side pocket with a phone number written in neat handwriting. Without wasting a moment, he grabbed his phone and dialed the number. Lily had just settled in her train seat, pulling out a travel mug filled with coffee, when her phone buzzed. She glanced at the unknown number on the screen, hesitated for a second, then answered, "Hello." A deep, composed voice responded, "Hi. Is this Lily Carter?" "Yes, who's this?" she asked cautiously. There was a brief pause before the man spoke again. "My name's James. I think you took my suitcase." Lily's eyes widened as she instinctively glanced down at the suitcase by her feet. "What? No, that's impossible. I—" Her voice trailed off as she unzipped it and gasped. Inside, there were several impeccably tailored suits, an expensive-looking watch in a velvet case, and a leather-bound planner embossed with the initials JH. "Oh my God," she whispered, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. I think you're right." James sighed on the other end. "Glad we got that settled. Where are you now?" I've just got on my train, but I can get off at the next stop and come back to the station," she said quickly. "I'm so sorry about this." "It's fine," James said, though his tone was amused. "Meet me at Cafe Verona near the station. Let's swap bags there." Lily swallowed her nerves. "Okay, I'll be there as soon as I can." She hung up and buried her face in her hands. "Great, Lily. First week back, and you've already embarrassed yourself." At Cafe Verona, James sat at a corner table, his sharp eyes scanning the entrance. He was curious about this Lily Carter. Her suitcase had been filled with things that spoke volumes about her personality. The worn book suggested she was a dreamer. The family photo showed she valued her loved ones, and the notebook filled with goals and plans hinted at ambition. A few minutes later, Lily rushed through the door, her face slightly flushed from hurrying. She spotted him almost immediately. His effortless confidence and sharp attire made him stand out even in a room full of people. "Hi, James," she asked tentatively as she approached his table. James looked up and gave her a small, polite smile. "Lily, I presume?" She nodded quickly, setting his suitcase down and pulling hers from behind her. "I am so sorry about this. I was in such a rush, and they look exactly the same, and James held up a hand, stopping her rambling. It's okay. Happens more often than you'd think. Lily let out a relieved breath, handing him his suitcase. I checked inside. Nothing's missing, I swear. James chuckled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. I did the same with yours. Lily froze. You opened my suitcase? Well, I had to figure out whose it was, he said, smirking. Don't worry, I didn't read too much of your journal. Her eyes widened in horror. Oh, God, you saw that? James leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying her embarrassment. Relax. It's nice to meet someone who still keeps handwritten dreams. Lily groaned, covering her face. This is the most humiliating day of my life. James grinned. Don't worry. I won't hold it against you. Despite her initial embarrassment, Lily found herself relaxing. James seemed easygoing and surprisingly down-to-earth despite his polished appearance. After a moment, she sighed. Well, I guess I should get going. Thanks for not being too mad about this. James watched her for a second before saying, Wait, since we've already had this interesting start, why not grab a coffee before you go? Lily blinked, surprised. Are you serious? James shrugged. I figure you owe me at least a coffee for the suitcase fiasco. She hesitated for a moment, then smiled. Okay, fine, but I picked the coffee. As they sat down together, Lily realized that maybe, just maybe, this mix-up wasn't such a disaster after all. Lily stepped into Café Verona, taking a deep breath as the scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. The cozy ambience, with its warm lighting and soft chatter of patrons, momentarily eased her nerves. She spotted James sitting at a corner table, looking effortlessly composed, his suit jacket draped neatly over the chair beside him. God, he looks like he walked straight out of a business magazine, she thought, adjusting the strap of her tote bag before making her way over. James looked up as she approached, offering a polite yet amused smile. Lily, he greeted, his voice smooth and even. Glad you made it. Lily set his suitcase down next to the table and gave an apologetic smile. Hi again. I'm so sorry about the whole mix-up. I swear I usually have my life together, but today, just not my day. James chuckled, his eyes studying her with interest. No harm done, honestly. It's been entertaining. Lily rolled her eyes playfully. I'm glad my embarrassment is amusing to you. She pulled her suitcase closer, unzipping it slightly to make sure everything was in place. Her eyes darted to James's suitcase, still sitting beside him. I have to admit, she said, curiosity getting the better of her. I peeked inside your bag when I realized it wasn't mine. James raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh, and what did you think? Lily smirked. Well, between the tailored suits, fancy cologne, and that ridiculously expensive-looking watch, I'd say you're doing pretty well for yourself. James leaned back in his chair, clearly amused. And what does that tell you about me? Lily tapped her chin thoughtfully. I'd say you're some kind of successful businessman, maybe finance. You give off that whole I make important deals over expensive lunches vibe. James laughed, shaking his head. That's not entirely inaccurate. Lily smiled. I knew it. I mean, people like you don't usually run into people like me, at least not without an accidental luggage swap. James tilted his head, intrigued by her words. And what kind of person are you? Lily shrugged, stirring her coffee. Oh, just your average girl trying to figure things out, one chaotic day at a time. James found himself captivated by her honesty. There was no pretense, no attempt to impress. Just genuine charm that was refreshing compared to the calculated conversations he was used to in his world. Figuring things out, huh? James mused. And how's that going so far? Lily sighed dramatically. Well, considering I just took a Millionaire's, businessman's suitcase by mistake, I'd say, work in progress. James smirked, noting how quickly she caught herself. Work in progress sounds about right for all of us. Lily studied him for a moment. You're surprisingly down to earth for a guy with a suitcase worth more than my rent. James smiled, enjoying how effortlessly she disarmed him. What can I say? I like to keep things simple. Lily leaned in slightly, her eyes narrowing playfully. You're pretty confident, you know that? James grinned. Confidence is key, isn't it? Lily laughed. Sure, but there's confidence, and then there's too much confidence. James smirked, deciding to keep his identity under wraps a little longer. Let's just say I've learned to trust myself. Lily shook her head, grinning. Must be nice. Some of us are still figuring that part out. James took a sip of his coffee, watching her intently. You seem like you're doing just fine. For a moment, Lily felt an unexpected warmth in his words, and she realized she was enjoying this conversation more than she thought she would. As they continued chatting, Lily found herself more at ease. She wasn't sure why, but there was something about James that made her feel comfortable, despite his polished appearance and confident demeanor. After a while, she glanced at the time. I should probably get going, but thanks for not being a total jerk about this whole mix-up. James smiled. Anytime. And hey, maybe next time we'll meet under better circumstances. No luggage required. Lily laughed, gathering her things. We'll see about that. As she walked toward the exit, James watched her go, a thoughtful expression on his face. She was different from anyone he'd met before. Genuine, witty, and refreshingly unpretending. And for the first time in a long while, he found himself looking forward to seeing someone again. A few days after their initial meeting, James found himself thinking about Lily more than he expected. There was something refreshing about her. Her honesty, her humor, and the way she seemed completely unaware of his wealth and status. He found himself wanting to know more about her beyond the accidental luggage mix-up. After some deliberation, he decided to take a chance. Picking up his phone, he sent a simple text. Hey Lily, how about a walk in the park this weekend? Consider it a proper thank you for not running off with my suitcase. He smirked, wondering if she'd say yes. To his surprise, her reply came almost instantly. Only if you promise not to judge my coffee addiction. Saturday? Deal. On Saturday afternoon, James waited near the entrance of the park, dressed in a casual sweater and jeans, a stark contrast to his usual tailored suits. When Lily arrived, wearing a cozy cardigan and scarf, she greeted him with a playful smile. Wow, she teased, looking him up and down. The businessman actually owns something other than suits. James chuckled. Surprising, I know. I like to keep people guessing. They started walking along the park's winding paths, the autumn leaves crunching beneath their feet. The air was crisp, and the atmosphere was relaxed, so Lily began glancing at him curiously. You never did tell me exactly what you do, she said. James shrugged lightly. I work in finance. Investments mainly. Nothing too exciting. Lily raised an eyebrow. Finance, huh? That explains the fancy suitcase. James smirked. And what about you? What's your grand plan in life, Lily Carter? Lily sighed wistfully. Well, I've always had this dream of opening a little book cafe, somewhere cozy where people can escape the chaos of life, sip coffee, and get lost in a good story. James looked at her, genuinely impressed. That sounds amazing, actually. Lily smiled, her eyes lighting up. Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about for years. I just haven't figured out how to make it happen yet. James could see the passion in her eyes, and it intrigued him even more. What's stopping you? Lily laughed softly. Money, for one, and time. Right now, I'm just working to pay the bills, so the dream has to wait. James nodded thoughtfully. But you're not giving up on it. Never, Lily said firmly. I just want to do it on my own, you know. No shortcuts. James admired her determination. She wasn't looking for an easy way out, something he rarely saw in people around him. As they walked past a small fountain, James hesitated for a moment before speaking. What if he didn't have to wait so long? Lily turned to him, confused. What do you mean? James chose his words carefully. Let's say, hypothetically, someone believed in your dream and wanted to help you get started. Lily's eyes narrowed slightly. Are you talking about you? James chuckled. Maybe. Lily shook her head, smiling but firmly. James, that's really sweet, but I can't accept something like that. I want to do this on my own, remember? James appreciated her resolve, but pressed gently. I get that, but sometimes a little help can go a long way. It doesn't have to mean giving up your independence. Lily stopped walking and turned to face him. I appreciate the offer. I really do, but I need to prove to myself that I can make this happen without any handouts. James studied her for a moment, then nodded. I respect that. Lily smiled. Good, because if I ever take that leap, it'll be because I earned it. James couldn't help but feel a deeper admiration for her. She was different from anyone he'd ever met, strong-willed, independent, and driven by passion rather than material things. They continued their walk, the tension easing, and the conversation turning back to lighter topics. Later, as they sat on a bench watching the sunset, Lily glanced at James. "Thanks for today. It's nice to talk about dreams without feeling like they're impossible." James smiled. "They're not impossible, Lily. Some dreams just take time." She nodded, her heart feeling lighter. "Yeah, and coffee. Lots of coffee." James laughed. "That too." As they parted ways, James watched her disappear down the street, realizing that his interest in Lily was no longer just curiosity. He was genuinely drawn to her, and for the first time in a long time, he found himself wondering what it would be like to have someone like Lily in his life. Someone real, someone who saw beyond wealth and ambition, and someone who dreamed fearlessly. Over the following weeks, James and Lily found themselves spending more and more time together. What had started as an accidental encounter had slowly turned into a friendship built on laughter, late-night conversations, and an ease that neither of them expected. They met for coffee at their usual spot, strolled through the busy city streets, and even visited small bookstores, where Lily would excitedly talk about her favorite novels. James enjoyed these moments more than he cared to admit. For once, he wasn't being treated like the wealthy businessman everyone saw him as. He was just James. One chilly afternoon, they found themselves walking along the riverfront, the crisp autumn breeze making Lily pull her coat tighter around herself. James, noticing her shiver, casually draped his scarf around her shoulders. "Thanks," Lily said, her cheeks slightly pink from the cold, or perhaps something more. James smiled. "I couldn't let you freeze, could I?" They continued walking in comfortable silence until Lily finally spoke. "You know, I don't usually get this close to people so fast," she admitted, her voice quieter than usual. James glanced at her, intrigued. "Why is that?" Lily sighed, her gaze fixed on the rippling water. "I guess I've always had to rely on myself. My parents passed away when I was young, and it's just been me ever since." James slowed his pace, his expression softening. "I'm sorry, Lily. That must have been really hard." She nodded, smiling faintly. "Yeah, but it made me stronger. I worked my way through school, juggled jobs, and tried to keep my dreams alive in between everything else." James admired her resilience. There was no self-pity in her words, just quiet determination. "That's impressive," he said sincerely. "Most people would have given up." Lily shrugged. "Well, I didn't have much of a choice. I knew if I wanted a better life, I'd have to make it happen myself." James was silent for a moment before speaking, his voice thoughtful. "I think that's one of the things I admire most about you. You don't wait for things to come to you. You go after them." Lily smiled at him, touched by his words. "Thanks, James. That means a lot." They stopped near a park bench, and Lily sat down, gesturing for James to join her. He did, resting his elbows on his knees as he looked out over the bustling city beyond the river. After a long pause, James spoke, his voice tinged with something Lily hadn't heard from him before: vulnerability. "You know, I have everything I could ever want. Money, success, all of it. But sometimes it feels like none of it really matters." Lily looked at him curiously. "What do you mean?" James let out a slow breath. "It's hard to know who actually cares about me and who just cares about what I can offer them. I've met so many people who only see the wealth, the status, and sometimes I wonder if I'll ever find someone who sees me." Lily studied him, surprised by the raw honesty in his words. "That sounds lonely." James nodded slowly. "Yeah, it can be." Lily hesitated before reaching out and gently placing her hand on his. "For what it's worth, I like hanging out with you. Not the finance guy version of you, just you." James turned to look at her, their eyes meeting in a quiet moment of understanding. "That means more to me than you know," he said softly. Lily smiled. "Well, you're not so bad once you get past the whole too confident thing." James chuckled, the tension easing between them. "I'll take that as a compliment." They sat in silence for a while, enjoying the simplicity of the moment. James realized then that Lily was different. She wasn't impressed by his wealth, nor was she intimidated by it. She saw him for who he was beneath all of it, and for the first time in a long while, he felt real. As the sun began to set, Lily stood up and stretched. "Come on, Mr. Finance Guy. I'm starving, and I know just the place." James laughed, standing up beside her. "Lead the way." And just like that, without pretense or expectation, they continued walking side by side, both feeling a connection neither of them had been looking for, but one they both knew was becoming something special. One evening after a long day at work, Lily curled up on her couch with a cup of tea and her phone in hand. She scrolled through the news absent-mindedly, catching up on headlines and social media updates. As she swiped through an article, a familiar face suddenly popped up on her screen. Her heart nearly stopped. James Hunter, the young millionaire behind Hunter Capital's success. Lily blinked, staring at the photo accompanying the article. There he was, her James, dressed in an impeccable suit, standing confidently in front of a towering glass office building. She quickly scanned the article, absorbing words like self-made millionaire, one of the most eligible bachelors in the city, Forbes 30 under 30, and philanthropist. Her stomach twisted in shock. "No way," she whispered. Lily reread the article twice, trying to process it. The man she had been spending so much time with, laughing over coffee and sharing personal stories with, wasn't just a regular finance guy. He was James Hunter, a powerhouse in the corporate world. How had she not known? She put her tea down, feeling a strange mixture of emotions flood her chest. Confusion, surprise, and an underlying sense of doubt. Was anything he told me real? Later that evening, Lily paced around her small apartment, her mind racing. She felt foolish for not seeing the signs. The expensive suitcase, the effortless confidence, the way he seemed to know all the high-end spots in the city. But more than anything, she felt hurt. Why didn't he tell me? Finally, she grabbed her phone and sent James a text. "We need to talk. Can you meet me at the cafe?" His reply came almost instantly. "Of course. See you there in 20 minutes. Lily sat on the couch, tapping her fingers nervously on her knee. She needed answers. When James arrived at the cafe, Lily was already seated, her fingers wrapped around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. She looked up when he entered, her expression unreadable. "Hey," James greeted, his usual warm smile faltering when he saw the serious look on her face. He took a seat across from her, setting his phone down on the table. "What's going on?" Lily took a deep breath, pulled up the article on her phone, and slid it across the table. "So, is there something you forgot to mention?" James glanced at the screen, then back at her. He sighed, leaning back in his chair. "I guess you found out." Lily crossed her arms. "Yeah, I did. Why didn't you tell me?" James met her gaze, his voice calm but sincere. "Because I wanted you to know me, Lily. Not the millionaire. Not the businessman. Just me." Lily shook her head, frustration evident in her voice. "But why hide it? Did you think I'd treat you differently if I knew?" James hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Honestly, yes. It's happened before. People treat me differently the moment they find out. They either put me on a pedestal or want something from me." He leaned forward, his expression serious. "But with you, it was different. You didn't care about any of that, and I didn't want to ruin it." Lily bit her lip, the anger she had felt earlier slowly giving way to understanding. I feel like I've been lied to." James shook his head firmly. "I never lied to you, Lily. I just didn't tell you everything right away. I wanted us to have something real, without my money getting in the way." Lily stared at him, searching his eyes for any sign of insincerity, but all she found was honesty. Slowly, the tension in her shoulders eased. After a long pause, she let out a soft laugh, shaking her head. "You know, I thought you were just some overconfident finance guy with a nice suitcase. Turns out you're a millionaire with an even nicer suitcase." James chuckled, relief washing over him. Guilty as charged. Lily sipped her coffee thoughtfully. "You could have just told me." "James, I don't care about the money." James reached across the table, taking her hand gently. "I know. That's why I didn't want to tell you. Because with you, for the first time in a long while, I felt like just a guy. And I didn't want to lose that." Lily looked down at their hands, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She realized that, despite the initial shock, nothing had really changed between them. He was still James, the guy who listened to her dreams, who made her laugh, who had been there when she needed a friend. Taking a deep breath, she smiled softly. "You're lucky I like you for more than your expensive watch." James grinned. "I was hoping you'd say that." Lily squeezed his hand, a playful glint in her eye. "But now that I do know, I expect you to buy the next round of coffee." James laughed. "Deal." As they left the cafe together, Lily felt a newfound sense of clarity. Yes, James was wealthy beyond her imagination, but that didn't change who he was when he was with her. And as long as their connection was real, money wouldn't define their relationship. James glanced at her as they walked side by side. "So you're not running away?" Lily smiled. "Not a chance. But you might have to answer a lot of questions about what it's like being a millionaire." James smirked. "I can handle that." And with that, they continued walking down the busy street side by side, knowing that the foundation of their relationship was built on something money could never buy: trust and genuine connection. One evening, Lily and James were sitting on a park bench, sipping coffee under the soft glow of the streetlights. The air was cool, and the sound of distant laughter from people walking by filled the space between them. James had been quiet for a while, clearly lost in thought. Finally, he turned to her. "Lily, I've been thinking about something." Lily glanced at him, amused. "Oh, that sounds serious." James chuckled, but quickly grew serious. "It is actually. I want to help you with your dream, the book cafe." Lily's smile faded, and she looked down at her coffee cup, suddenly feeling overwhelmed. "James, I don't know." James reached for her hand gently. "I mean it. I believe in you, and I have the resources to help make it happen. You wouldn't have to struggle." Lily sighed, pulling her hand away gently. "It's not about struggling, James. It's about proving to myself that I can do this on my own." James frowned, concern evident in his eyes. "But why? What's wrong with accepting a little help? People do it all the time." Lily shook her head. "Because I spent my whole life working for everything I have. I don't want to feel like I took a shortcut, or worse, like I owe you something." James exhaled slowly, clearly trying to understand. "It's not about owing me, Lily. It's about us being a team." Lily looked at him, emotions swirling inside her. "I just need time to think about it, okay?" James nodded, offering a small smile. "Take all the time you need. I just want you to know that I'm here for you." Later that night, Lily sat on her couch, staring at her phone. She scrolled through messages from her best friend, Sophie, debating whether to call her. Finally, she gave in and dialed. "Hey, Lil, what's up?" Sophie's voice was cheerful as ever. Lily sighed. "I need advice. It's about James." "Oh, Mr. Mysterious Millionaire," Sophie teased. "What did he do now?" Lily hesitated. "He wants to help me with my dream cafe. He's offering to invest." There was a pause. "And let me guess, you're freaking out?" "Pretty much," Lily admitted. "I mean, I want this cafe more than anything, but if I take his help, am I giving up my independence?" Sophie's voice softened. "Lily, listen to me. Independence doesn't mean doing everything alone. Sometimes, the right people in your life want to lift you up, not take over." Lily chewed on her lip, considering her friend's words. "Look," Sophie continued, "James isn't offering to take your dream away from you. He just wants to support you. And honestly, isn't that what love is about? Helping each other grow." Lily leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Yeah, I guess you're right." "Of course I'm right," Sophie laughed. "Now stop overthinking and go tell him that you're ready to make your dream happen with him by your side." Lily smiled. "Thanks, sophomore. You always know what to say. That's what best friends are for." The next day, Lily met James at the cafe where it all started. He was already there, sitting at their usual table, stirring his coffee absently. When he saw her walk in, he stood up, his face searching for an answer in her expression. Lily took a deep breath as she sat down. "I've been thinking about what you said." James nodded, his eyes filled with anticipation. She smiled softly. "I want to do this, James, but on my terms. I want to run the cafe myself. Every decision, every detail. It needs to come from me." James's face broke into a relieved smile. "That's all I ever wanted, Lily. To see you succeed your way." Lily exhaled, feeling lighter than she had in days. Promise me you won't interfere. James held up his hands. Escouts honor. I'll be your biggest supporter, not your boss. Lily laughed, reaching across the table to take his hand. Then I think we have a deal. James squeezed her hand gently. I'm so proud of you, Lily. You're going to make this dream a reality. Lily felt warmth spread through her chest. Yeah, I think I am. Over the next few weeks, Lily threw herself into planning the cafe. James was there when she needed him, offering advice when asked but never stepping on her toes. Their relationship grew stronger, built on mutual respect and support. One evening, as they stood outside the Sun Toby Cafe, Lily looked at James with gratitude in her eyes. I never imagined I'd be here doing this. And I definitely never imagined meeting you. James smiled. Life has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it? Lily nodded, squeezing his hand. Yeah, and I think I'm okay with that. And as they stood there, looking at the dream they were building together, Lily realized that letting someone in didn't mean losing herself. It meant finding someone willing to walk the journey with her. The grand opening of Lily's Book Cafe was finally here. The cozy little shop, nestled in a charming corner of the bustling city, was everything Lily had dreamed of, and more. The shelves were filled with carefully selected books. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, and the soft hum of conversation made the space feel alive. Lily stood behind the counter, adjusting a vase of fresh flowers, her heart swelling with pride. This was her dream brought to life. Through years of hard work and, admittedly, a little help from someone who believed in her as much as she believed in herself. James had kept his promise. He had provided the financial backing, but every decision, every detail had been hers. And that made all the difference. As the first customers trickled in, Lily greeted them with a warm smile, her excitement bubbling beneath the surface. She was so caught up in the whirlwind of serving coffee and chatting with guests that she almost didn't notice when Joe awaked, but when she did, her breath caught in her throat. James stood at the entrance, dressed casually but effortlessly stylish as always, with a proud smile on his face. And he wasn't alone. He had brought a group of his closest friends and colleagues to support her. Lily felt a lump form in her throat as she watched him interact with the guests, casually introducing himself to her customers, speaking highly of the cafe as if it were the most important place in the world. When he finally made his way to the counter, he leaned in slightly and grinned. Looks like you're doing pretty well for yourself, Miss Cafe owner. Lily chuckled, wiping her hands on her apron. I think I might actually pull this off. James tilted his head, admiration shining in his eyes. I never doubted you for a second. Lily felt her heart swell. Thank you, James, for everything. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear gently. You did this, Lily. I just stood back and watched. Lily smiled, feeling tears prick the corners of her eyes. Well, I'm glad you were watching. James smirked. Wouldn't have missed it for the world. As the day went on and the cafe bustled with laughter and the clinking of cups, Lily stole a few moments to step outside onto the small balcony above the shop. She needed a breath, a moment to take it all in. A few seconds later, James joined her, handing her a cup of coffee. Thought you might need this, he said. Lily took it gratefully, leaning against the railing as they looked down at the street below. People came and went, holding cups with her cafe's logo, flipping through books, and enjoying the inviting space she had created. It's amazing, she whispered. I still can't believe this is real. James slid an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. Believe it. You made this happen. Lily looked up at him, smiling softly. We made this happen. James pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. And it's just the beginning. Lily sighed contentedly, resting her head against his shoulder, watching as the sun began to set over the city. She thought about how far she had come, from working multiple jobs, carrying dreams in her heart but no way to bring them to life, to standing here with someone who had become more than just a supporter. He was her partner in every sense of the word. I think we're going to be okay, she whispered. James smiled, squeezing her gently. I know we will. And with that, they stood there together, looking out at the future they had built, knowing that love, respect, and a little faith had carried them through. And so, Lily and James's journey shows us that dreams can come true with hard work, perseverance, and a little help from the right person. Their love story is a reminder that true connection goes beyond wealth and status. It's about support, respect, and believing in each other's dreams. Thank you for joining us on Lily and James's unexpected yet beautiful journey. From a simple mistake at the train station to the realization that love and dreams don't need to be built on status or wealth, their story reminds us all that true connection is about seeing each other for who we are. A story of support, perseverance, and finding someone who believes in you as much as you believe in yourself. Lily's Cafe is a testament to the power of hard work, and together with James, she proves that no dream is too big to chase, especially when you have the right person by your side. Did you enjoy this emotional journey? If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that stir the heart. We would love to know what kind of story you would enjoy next. Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.